Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. All right, everybody. We are back yet again for another fun and exciting. This is going to be an exciting one because, number one, I've got two guys on at the same time. This is weird. I feel like I'm getting ganged upon here. I don't know if I'm going to get beat up or if I'm going to get thrown, but I am here with the Greco United guys. We're talking to Nick Tell me if I pronounce these incorrectly. Nick Africano?
Yeah, totally correct.
Oh, okay. And Logan Savvy.
Yes, sir.
The two V's throw me off, dude. I don't know if I'm supposed to say savvy or just kind of savvy. But good. We got the guys here.
Yeah, it's not French.
Right? We got the guys here. So I wanted you guys to come on, and I told you a little bit about this, Logan, but I wanted you guys to come on because Greco's important. I like to take the things that people think that really aren't cool, I guess, for lack of a better term, but we make them cool just because Greco's fun to watch. And Logan, you've kind of proved some of that as far as seeing some of the competition you've been in lately and the things that I've watched. I watched you wrestle. I mean, it's exciting to watch guys wrestle. I'm a Kamal Bay fan. I'm a Logan Savvy fan. All these guys that are exciting on the mat, but you guys bring more than that to just as far as competition. You guys also have your own podcast and Rockfin channel. So let's dive into you guys a little bit here first. So Logan, I talked to you, so I know that we'll be able to get through that. Nick, you gave us a snippet. Let's talk a little bit more about you. What got you? What was your first sport? Your dad. You said your dad was in wrestling. We'll mention him in a little bit here. But was wrestling your first sport?
No, wrestling was not my first sport, and I didn't want it to be my first sport. Soccer, and I thought I was going to be an NFL running back at 90 pounds soaking wet, but that never played out because I never grew. So wrestling was the main choice.
Right on. Well, so I played soccer. I was telling Logan about that. I've been playing since I was 4. Play up until, I still play, but it's not very well now because I'm 45 and it hurts. So, but I do play. I do try to stay as active as possible. But when coming up, what was that like for you as far as you wanting to do the things you wanted, but dad was like, no, I do this, so you're going to do this too. Was that how it was, or did he ask you?
No, what I really appreciated was my dad gave me the choice, and we tried baseball, football, soccer, also did youth rugby, so we did all these different sports. It's just after trial and error, and then as the more I grew up and wanted to be like my dad, wrestling just kind of became that natural fit, which, I ended up loving and then really committing myself to come, high school.
Right on. Okay. So now, Logan, you and I didn't touch on this yet. Where do your athletics be? Not necessarily wrestling. Where do your athletics begin?
Well, actually, wrestling was my first sport.
It was.
I started when I was 5.
Okay.
Yeah, but the origin story it's a little different. So I wasn't really planning on doing it, right? But I have an older brother. He's 4.5 years older than me.
Okay.
And I'm just hyper competitive. So when I heard he was going to start wrestling, I was like, I want to do it too. And my mom was like, well, if they have your age group, you can do it, right? Yeah. And so 5 was the youngest you can beat. And I swear to God, the only reason I started was because I wanted to be able to beat my brother.
That is a great goal. I had the same goal, but I was not accomplishing that very quick. So you both started pretty young in athletics. as far as, and we'll go with Logan first here. Logan, what was probably your first like real, I guess, big memory of competition and what it meant to you as far as like, was it a tournament that you won, or was it just a match, a guy that you wrestled against that was like kind of your first real big memories of wrestling?
Honestly, for me, it was practice.
Okay.
Because again, I had this goal of like wanting to beat my older brother. So I was, talented starting out.
Yeah.
And then I was in like, I don't know, second grade or third grade, and I got invited to wrestle at the middle school practices.
Okay.
And for me, that was like a defining moment. I was like, yo, we're here now. Like, I'm doing the same things. I can do these workouts. Like,
Yeah.
I know that eventually I'm going to be able to accomplish my goals. So I loved practice. I'm a very like technical person, right? So it was boring to me doing the youth practices when it was like we just did a double leg all season, but they were actually doing mat wrestling and top and bottom in the middle school practice. So I was drawn to that, and so that really is kind of what catapulted me on the journey of like, hey, I'm gonna be really good at this. Like, guys my age really aren't hanging. I'm taking out these middle schoolers. Like, yeah we're in there.
Right on. And so what about you, Nick? What was your first real kind of, I guess, big moment when, as a kid, with sports, where you're like, this is what I want to do? Was it young?
Well, I'll tell you, my first big impression in wrestling was I had lost my first year every match, and I went to every tournament, and I lost every match except for one, and that one stuck with me because my dad was like, "I'm really proud of you. You never quit." And I just Logan wanted to beat his older brother. I was trying to keep up with my younger brother who won every tournament. So I just wanted to be like him. I couldn't keep up. So that was my first real impression when I finally won my first match. And then from there, my dad actually ended up starting his own club. And that's when it really stuck with me. And I was like, all right, I really like doing this.
Yeah.
And, I think my, second big impression with it and where I really stuck with it was my freshman year of high school on the JV team. Our JV duel mate, everyone on the team lost except for me. And I was like, wow, I think I can actually do this. And then,
I'm a man.
Hell yeah. That's cool. So with that being said, because both of you had the sibling situation, I had the same thing. What were you finding yourselves being able to bounce your competition ideas, or just things that you were dealing with as far as athletics? Were you able to kind of feed off of each other with your siblings with that, or were you guys kind of separate? You guys pick who goes first.
I'll go first because we were oil and water. Like, I couldn't, my brother was just like a specimen, right? Like, born with a six pack, like just super raw power and strength, right? So I couldn't touch him for years and years and years.
Sure.
So I would watch his matches and be like, that shouldn't work. Because again, I have this technical mind. So I'm like, there's no way I'm ever gonna, his best move was a bear hug. I was like,
so did he try to sit down with you and kind of like try to work with you on like you're telling him, how are you doing this? Would he take you kind of under his wing and try to show you that kind of stuff?
Oh, never. I would just attack him and then try to figure it out.
Awesome. That's a right idea.
He would never like really like pull me aside and work technique because he wasn't like a technical specialist. My dad was actually a bigger role in that. Like, he would buy the DVDs, he would sit down and watch them, and that's really what expedited my skill was those times we would like sit down and watch like that. Well, at the time it was like VCRs, right? We had like VCRs. And then a couple of years later, we elevated to the DVDs. But for me, that's where my technical development came in. My brother wasn't really much of an impact when it came to that type of development.
Okay. And Nick, your brother was younger, but were you guys able to kind of work hand in hand as far as maybe trying to help each other out? And how did that work between you two?
No, so my brother, he's shorter, stockier, and he's also very he's assertive and is aggressive on the mat, where I was too tall and too skinny, and so it just didn't work out. And he liked to do his own thing, where I just wanted to fit in and make friends. So he was focused on winning. I was focused on making friends, and then so I never really worked with him, nor do I think he work with me.
What have you?
So it really took high school for that physical development to like come in, and then I could start going behind it. Because I will tell you what, it was like Gumby on the mat, and if you blew air towards my way, I'd fall
over.
He was on his back.
So, I did not have any sort of physical prep.
Right on. So with whatever competition you had in your area, both of you, were you guys in were you guys in an area where it was kind of one of those things where you guys had such great high schools and such great, wrestling communities? Where did you guys grow? Where were your wrestling communities at? Where'd you guys grow up?
So I've always been in Northern Virginia, and we've never been known for wrestling besides the periods of time where my brother and I were in high school, right? We were like the pioneers. But circling back to youth days, I actually got kicked out of the main league, the local league.
What?
They created a rule that solely excluded me from the league.
What?
I was I was winning too much again. Like I said, the kids my age, they couldn't hang, right?
Yeah.
So all these coaches, their sons were getting just absolutely mopped up. I was just teching kids. I stopped pinning them. I would just tech them. And so after a while, when I was in 6th grade, they made this rule that was okay, if you wrestled X amount of matches out of state, or you have this many wins in the league but haven't competed in this many tournaments, then you can't compete in the final tournament. Right.
Oh yeah.
And so we're going through the criteria. Me and my dad are going through the criteria this is, oh my God. Wait a minute. That's literally just me. That doesn't fit anyone else. So then we ended up just traveling to other states. I wrestled more in Maryland and Pennsylvania throughout middle school than I did in Virginia.
You didn't go wrong. That's for sure. It's flying through Pennsylvania, man.
You had to, and that's kind of the battle cry is you have to leave Virginia to get better at wrestling, which is sad but true.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and I think honestly that's kind of what it was for us with soccer though too. I mean, because our area here wasn't terrible, but we weren't creating national caliber kids left and right, So a lot of us had to we're up where the Green Bay Packers are. That's kind of where our house is, and that's where I've lived. The best teams were down in Milwaukee, which is about an hour and 45-minute drive. So that's where we were going. We were going there to play soccer, not stick around in the Fox Valley so we can, play some more teams that aren't as good as the ones that are down there. So I totally feel what you guys had to do. No, I didn't have rules stacked against me. I definitely did not have that. But that's crazy that happened, man. So we have a criteria that's similar to it where it's if you wrestle so many, and I know the high school kids, I think it's, if they want, they can wrestle 2 events outside of the season, but those 2 events then have to replace something from their high school season. So yeah. And if you do those 2, you still have to get the athletic director's permission. And I believe in your head coach's permission, which I get the aspect of where they're trying to come from. There are a lot of rules in a lot of sports that are kind of crazy, but I think now a lot of the rules are just starting to restrict kids from getting better because of the rise of clubs. It's not just the schools anymore. The rise of clubs, and these kids are competing against them. And they're oh, if it's just a kid that's wrestling high school and he goes to a tournament, there's all these kids that wrestle club, tournaments are well, I might as well not even show up. Now you're kind of creating that result of people that don't want to show up to an event because they think they're going to get killed, but is what it is. I can't, and I don't bitch about rules too much. I do, but because I'm not a person that's going to make a change. I think that's kind of where we all kind of need to be at. I think at some point it's it's great. We have your opinions and things that need to change, but unless you're going to change it, stop being on your podium, for lack of a better term, trying to scream out about the issues unless you're going to make change. But changes need to be made. And obviously you guys probably noticed there was an issue. Did you guys make a change of area after that? Or did you guys just stick in the area and just kind of did what you had to do?
Yeah. So my club team actually got behind me and we created a travel team that next year.
Okay.
So we joined kind of the DMV area, Beltway League.
Yeah.
Which was super competitive. They did dual meets. It was actually a really, really good move.
Yeah.
But that rule excluding me is kind of what forced us in that direction.
Okay.
So okay, well, this is it's not
That's
really
awesome,
a team anymore. So it's not coming to practice. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
So we definitely stepped up to the plate. And that's when I met my club coach that kind of developed me to have success at high school and even at the college level. His name was Kurt McHenry. He stepped up and was our club coach.
Okay.
And his son is very good. Like, he's like a 2-time cadet world champion in freestyle.
I was gonna say that McHenry last
McHenry,
name sounds really familiar.
Yeah, dude, you gotta know who the McHenrys are. So, yeah. Kurt stepped up, man, and it was really clutch that he was able to take the time and lead the team.
Just so everybody's aware, Nick left because he had to drop his dog off. I'm gonna let everybody know about that. It's fine. It's fun. It's fun. He had to drop his dog off. Here's the thing: is like I told you guys in the beginning. I've had episodes where guys are like, I gotta go to the bathroom quick. Okay, that's fine. So I'll talk. And Nick's got to drop his dog off. He's got to work. He's got to work. I mean, I'm not going to make life stop. But Nick it looked like his dog was a little antsy, like he wanted to get going too. So
yeah, no, he had things to do. The dog had plans.
Dog did have plans. He definitely had plans.
Dog had plans, bro.
So when did your journey, I guess, as far as how was high school wrestling number one? What was that like for you other than that piece that kind of kept you out of certain things? Were you able to get to a state tournament?
Yeah, so I placed at states 3 times.
Nice. Okay.
My sophomore year, I took 7th. My junior year, I was 5th, and then my senior year, I did the semi-slide and I was 6th. But I always put myself in the most competitive weight class that was like, in or around my current weight. Yeah. And there was one guy specifically that I wanted to wrestle and beat. His name was Joey Dance. He went on to wrestle Virginia Tech.
Okay. Yep.
So I put myself in his weight class every single year with the hopes of like meeting him in the state semifinals or state finals and beating him. But I mean, I had a very, very, I think my career record, I was like 152 and 19. So I had a very successful season, sophomore, junior, senior year. My freshman year, actually, I didn't even get to compete in high school. I got in trouble in school and had to go to an alternative school.
Okay.
And so I wrestled for my club team that year. But at the time, the Beltway League was actually more competitive than what was offered, like that, what I would have had my freshman season.
Yeah.
So I came off that year and then just really was turning heads my sophomore year, like, oh, we got to look out for this kid.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it became like, again, so my technique, right? That was my whole thing. So every year, the coaches that were coaching against me, like, how they're always like, hey, watch the low single or watch the ankle.
Oh,
pick.
Yeah.
By my senior year, they had like a scroll on that side, like, okay, watch this. Like, okay, if I'm looking out for all these moves, how am I supposed to wrestle?
Yeah, right. No kidding. Exactly. Just let me wrestle, man. Hey, Nick, what happened to your dog, man?
Oh, I brought him in, but I'm in a bad cell area, so I apologize, but I might be cutting in and out.
You're fine. You let the dog go, didn't you? You just let him out the door and let him go to the woods, didn't you?
Yeah, really.
The woods of Arlington.
Yeah, right. So, Nick, let's talk a little bit about your kind of middle school, kind of going to high school. What was were you in middle school wrestling?
My dad had a club team, so it's not like we competed or anything.
Yeah.
So we just did that, and he would have the local neighborhood kids come around, and then that's where I learned a headlock and a stand up, and that was basically it. Awesome. And then went to high school. I'll tell you what, I was not as, I didn't have the athletic career that Logan did in wrestling. Yeah. I wasn't until about my junior year where I lost in districts. And I thought I was hot stuff going in, not, doing like 1 or 2 practices a summer. And then I thought I was hot stuff. And I took 5th at districts.
Nice.
And so I was like, all right, I really need to like get my stuff together if I want to wrestle in college. So I went up to Connecticut with Coach Knapp and the KT kids. And then from there, I really learned what like real wrestling was about, like hard drillings, live, heavy hands, and just beating the crap out of each other and training, and really understood that. So that's where wrestling really clicked for me. And then my senior year, I didn't make it to state. I was around away, but that gave me enough to where I could keep growing. And then I walked onto my college team at Olivet College. And then, the rest is history from there on my, folk style career.
I didn't even get to regionals. So, you guys are doing all right. You guys are doing quite all right, Nick, in my book. That's for sure. Especially you, Nick.
Nick, does that hurt to say 5th at districts? I've never had to say that.
Come on.
Oh,
Dude, face off my bro.
That was the most embarrassing thing of my life in high school.
Was it really?
Well, when you're 17 and you think you're really good, and then you can't even make regionals. Oh my God.
So wow, it was
the string team that didn't make it.
Yeah, I think I was the one that was on varsity that was like on varsity out of sympathy. I think that's how that worked out for me. But I was like, hey, I'll go for the ride.
You got to wrestle on senior night.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Say, hey guys, thanks. I didn't do anything. Cool. I should have been a water boy. But honestly, it takes more just to me after now seeing my kids both have gone through, my first son went through some fairly high level wrestling, but now my youngest son he's on worlds beyond what his older brother plus me plus anybody in my family's been able to do. But with you guys having gone and done something else and gone into a venue, a type of wrestling that not everybody digs, that not everybody gets into, where did that, because we haven't talked to you guys, haven't brought it up yet, where did that start to kind of come into your lives a little more as far as Greco taking over?
The Greco origin story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine was pretty unique. So after college, my senior year, I started a club team called Matt Savvy Wrestling Club.
Yep.
And I was very adamant about exposing my kids to all three styles, right? Okay. I was like, guys, like we're gonna be Matt Savvy. Like that's who we are. So after folk style season, we were doing freestyle, and I brought in some like Greco clinicians, and did the month of all Americans and bringing guys in,
nice,
exposing them to high level wrestling.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I need to like lead by example. So that year I actually competed in the U23 World Team Trials for freestyle.
Okay.
And I did pretty well.
Was that 2018? Like, you know what? When was that?
The first year, yeah, that was 2018.
Because I did go back a little bit because I just wanted to see you wrestle a little bit. I think this is probably about a couple months ago. But I was just kind of looking for videos, and I was looking back. I was like 2018, and kind of stopped. But I was like, I hope that's not the last one. But that's when you kind of started. So, right on.
Yeah, no, that was the beginning of my really my senior level career. So after that, I went out to the U.S. Open, and I was like a match away from facing. Didn't have a coach. Like my losses at that tournament were Logan Stever and Jason Ness.
Why did you not win those matches? Come on, man.
I know. I should have had somebody in my corner, bro.
Yeah, that sucks. So it was funny. We went down to Worlds, and I can't remember if it was 2019. It was somewhere right after COVID, but it was in Iowa. It was my son and I were just going down, right? We were just going to go down and watch. And I actually got messaged by a guy on one of these private pages I was on, because I talk about, I had a dual team that we take around basically for my kid, but get some of the kids in Wisconsin out. So I was on this page as a coach, and this guy reaches out and he's like, hey, I'm going to be at the World Team Trials. Can you coach me? And I'm like, oh, I coach kids, dude. Like, I don't know. He goes, I just need someone in the corner. I'm like, if you understand that that's all I'm there for, I'm game. I'll sit in your corner. I will be there. I will help as much as possible, but I am by no means knowledgeable in any of this. And he was wrestling in Greco on top of that. I was like, I know Greco. So I contacted Lucas quick. I'm like, hey, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to watch for? Because I'm used to kids. This is adult shit, and it's way different, and it's a whole different, ball game with these guys. He kind of gave me some tips and pointers. Then I went down there. And he's like, he bailed out. He had an injury. So I don't know.
No.
Yeah. I don't know if I got saved on that.
You were ready.
I was ready.
No, bro, you were training for that. You were ready to
I know, right? So I think it's interesting knowing that, just kind of, like you said, you want to put your money where your mouth is and show the kids that, this is where it's at. This is what you got to do. Yeah.
I was going to say that actually, I got the itch after that. I was like, yo, I literally was in the blood round of the toughest freestyle tournament that we have. So I started training full time after that. I was like, hey kids, like, sorry, but I'm putting me first.
Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of the end of Matt Savvy Wrestling Club in a traditional format.
Yep.
And so I started looking for RTCs because that started to become really popular around the time.
Yeah.
So I contacted like 8 different RTCs, and then finally I ended up at Cornell. And so when I got there, I was planning on just training, Greco and freestyle, and I wanted to become a complete wrestler, right? I was like, if I end my career without wrestling Greco, then I can't say that I became the best that I possibly could.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And so, so I started training Greco, and like secretly, obviously I want to be an Olympic champion. So like Yanni's up there, and he's one guy that like absolutely wouldn't touch on my best day. Right. But I was like, maybe I can get the advantage over him. right? If I'm doing something he's not doing.
Right.
So
Upper body.
Greco was gonna be, yeah, exactly. Like I probably throw him, right?
Yeah, right. It's four, at least four, right?
after a month, they sit me down in the office, and so the Greco coach at the time was Haj Sali. He's a 2-time Olympian from Iran.
Yep.
He's like sitting in the office, and they're like, "Hey, listen, like nobody's an Olympic champion in both styles, so you need to pick." And I was like, "Okay, well, that wasn't really part of the game plan." So I got a little quiet, and then Haj chimes up, and he's like, "Well, I promise if you do Greco, like we'll go to Sweden, we'll go here." I was like, "Say less." Like, what do you mean? So we went to like 3 different countries that year, and I got to experience the culture of Greco, around the world, and how important it was, and then also just like pure Greco technique.
Yeah.
And me being a technician, like I just that got me off really. I was like, yo, this is the style that like I should be doing. And just because of my frame and background in wrestling, like I was skilled enough to be able to compete even though I was getting my butt kicked.
Yeah.
Right. So that really started me on the path of like, hey, there aren't any Yannis that exist in our Greco scene, right?
Yep.
I can probably rise up in the ranks pretty quickly if I just dedicate, 100% and just go all in.
Yep.
So, I had really good training partners. I was training with Jesse Williams. He was
nice
U.S. Open runner-up.
Yep.
And we had a good little Greco crew there. There was like 6 of us, and that was the 6 of us like was probably the biggest team outside of Minnesota Storm or the Army program at the time.
Yeah.
Right. So, it was a very, very positive experience just crossing over and realizing that my goals are going to become infinitely more realistic just by making this choice. And also, my personal goal of becoming the best wrestler I can be, that's really going to show in Greco.
Yep, for sure. So Nick, are you there? Nick.
Oh yeah.
Nick, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I'm messing with you, dude. I know you're there. Yeah, I can hear you. So where did, once you got, because like you said, you were in club.
Okay, perfect.
You did a lot of club. Where was your experience then coming out of like getting into high school? What was high school? You said 5th in districts. It wasn't spectacular, but were you planning to do Greco in high school? Where did that start coming around for you?
No, I wasn't ever really planning to get into Greco. I know it's something my dad would always talk about and what he did.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to Greco, I like to talk a lot about my dad because again, he has a big influence in it.
Yeah.
And so like when I learned that like my dad's roommate on the All Army team was Randy Couture, and at that time when UFC was really popular, that's when I was like, I'm doing Greco. And so that's when I started to really get into it for me, because I was like, I want to be able, because I thought I was going to be a UFC champion, which
me too.
I don't even want to do anymore, but
right.
So I applaud those who do, but it's a very very different path. So I didn't think so. I just started kind of doing it in high school. I did it like I went 0-2 at Fargo when I went. But I was like, all right, this is something I'm gonna like keep in the back of my head.
Okay.
And then I went with Derek Waldrop, who was also my dad's teammate, and he's a '96 Olympian. And he was like, hey, like come train with me in Texas. So I went and trained in Texas. That really helped my wrestling. And I got to go to like Northern Michigan for a couple weeks or a couple days.
That's the spot to go.
For one of their, oh my God, I know. But when it's negative 30 degrees, I was questioning my life choices.
That's like summer though here.
And it was, oh yeah. I know. But again, I'm from DC, so I'm soft. So I'm not built tough like a lot of these Midwestern guys.
Yeah, tough Midwestern fat dudes, just walking around with all this burly fat on us. But yeah, so DC, that's a rough town, man. That's what Dave Chappelle told me at least.
Well, I should say I was Alexandria, which is like the even softer suburbs of DC. It's just easier to say DC for people who aren't familiar. It
sounded
with
much harder at the time.
Oh, dude, you sound like you're a street hard. You said DC, baby.
Oh, I am the furthest thing from street hard there is.
That's awesome. So at least there was a little bit of a just kind of a spark there. I mean, a little bit. right? I mean, Fargo doesn't go well for a lot of guys. Trust me. I mean, right now we're gearing up to leave for Fargo coming up here. But I mean, just the experience. I mean, it had to have been a little bit of like this is I kind of like this. Did you, at some point there was an interest, right? I mean, you had, whether it was competing or just at least being in it.
Yeah. So real interest when I thought, I was like, all right, I really should think about doing this like more like full time.
Yeah.
My dad's, one of his former coaches, Coach Rich Estrella, he was like, hey, I put together an international trip every year and we go to Denmark. And so I'll go. So I got me and like 8 other college buddies. And then my coach, and we all went to Denmark for 2 weeks for their training camp. And we were training with like guys from Germany, Chechnya, Denmark, Finland, all those areas. So it was really awesome. And, it was pretty cool because Coach Thor invited me to wrestle at his Thor Masters right after it. And at that time, I didn't know anything about international competition. I was like, wow, like, this is a big deal. So I never ended up going, but I was like, all right, like, maybe this is the style for me. Cause again, in folk style college, it didn't all click for me. So, I had a great time, but Greco, it felt more natural than it did folk style.
Okay. Well, it makes sense. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned your dad quite a bit. So it's not like you were a stranger to it. You knew of Greco and you knew the background, things like that. It just is, I think sometimes that happens. It happens with kids too, growing up where, I mean, my mom was in the dentist industry. The last thing that we ever dealt with at home was dentists. Like you don't, landscapers don't want to do landscaping when they get home, but you're there and someone who's got a love for it. And obviously your dad loved it. I mean, he was on an Olympic team, so it's not like he was not into it and hated it, was forced into it. But once you start getting into it, did you notice maybe a little bit, and this is, I guess, a little touchy, but did you notice your relationship change with your dad a little more as you started getting into it more?
Oh yeah. I mean, we would always talk about like, what he did, what I can do better, like what his history and past was like in Go and how it helped him develop as like a soldier and all that stuff. Yeah. And then how how it's helping me grow and learn and really chase something that I want. Cause that's when I really, like in college, I was doing the normal college routine, but I wasn't doing what like the top guys were doing. And then come time when I really started to compete in Greco, which I had a short athletic career in that, I was waking up at 5 a.m. I was working 2-3 times a day, getting what I could in terms of practice, because our area, as Logan can attest to, Northern Virginia doesn't have a sprawling Greco scene. So, I was really committing myself to it. And then, I felt like a true wrestler when I got into Greco.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit. You guys kind of have just touched on college a little bit. What was the college direction for you, Logan?
So I had a very roundabout college thing. So, I mean, in my high school career, I was like the D1 bound kid, right? Like that's all I wanted. That's all I cared about. So, I actually had a scholarship offer to Appalachian State. And then after I did the semi-slide and took 6, they rescinded the offer.
Cool.
So I ended up actually going to a D3 school at first. I went to Ferrum College.
Okay.
And so I wrestled there with the intention of hey, this is just gonna lay the foundation, and then I'm gonna transfer D1. So I wrestled there for 2 years, and then kind of had a falling out with the coach because I had one foot out the door.
Yeah.
I transferred to Liberty University.
Okay.
And again, I was I'm gonna just wrestle here probably for a year, win the national title, and then I'm on my way to D1.
Yeah.
And so kind of the same thing, I wrestled there. I was an All-American my junior year, and then senior year I got into a falling out with that coach because, he knew I wanted to leave. So I had a very not the best career in terms of just stability. My wrestling ability would jump level every single year. Right. And I was actually yeah, oh yeah, for sure. No, for sure. Had to take that route. I don't know if you watch Naruto, but I was the Akatsuki in college.
That's right.
I started my own faction, and we were gonna take over one way or another.
Right on. Yeah, it makes sense.
So actually, like I said, I mentioned before, my senior year is when I started the club team. So after I, left the college team, I was well, fuck it. Like, I'm going to start my own team. And we're going to take over this area.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It
for
was in
sure.
Lynchburg, Virginia. And so that's what we did. I started with private sessions with this one kid that's pretty good. And then I had like 20 members by the time I was about to go compete in the US Open.
Yeah. Yep.
So I started just developing myself more and more.
Mhm.
And that's because the college road was so difficult. Like, and it wasn't like a skill issue or like an ability thing. I just didn't mesh with these coaches, like with their goals. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a pretty prevalent thing in college. Like a lot of guys don't have the best careers that have really good wrestling ability because the college coaching agenda is so just like, it's selfish, right?
Yeah.
These coaches have, they're getting paid to do a certain thing and there's no compromise or whatever. So I'm definitely like an open-minded person, but I'm also, I can be stubborn when I have to when it comes to my goals as well. So that never really sat well with coaches until I got to Cornell and I met somebody like Rob Cole, who just like is on a completely different wavelength than all these other guys, right? So like him and Mike Gray really embraced me. And, they liked my story. They liked my work ethic and, they allowed me to continue to grow and develop, at Cornell. So even though it was under the RTC setting, I still had really that college experience while I was there.
I think a lot of that boils down to is like, it kind of just came to my head that if you look at how four-year colleges with scholarships and all the stuff that they have to balance for athletes, it's almost like going to a four-year college is like applying for a job that requires a master's, So you're going into a high-level athletic, probably program in the first place. So you need to have all these credentials because you just mentioned you had that slide and then all of a sudden they rescind their offer, right? Whereas you get some of these clubs, not even clubs, but like Greco, they make Greco sound like it's like tech school. Like it's made for the kids.
Right,
It's this Greco's for the kids who couldn't make it in freestyle and folk style. It's like, actually, it's quite the opposite. Those guys are wrestling here because they can't do it there. That's the whole problem. And that's the problem, I think, with the country in general is I get a kick out of places that say you need to have 2 to 3 years experience in order to work here and do this. Well, how am I supposed to get that 2 or 3 years experience? Like you're going to give me that experience because I'm willing to learn. And I think a lot of times people just aren't willing to learn. So they pass those people up and like you said, they put that slide, you got that slide and they're like, ooh, not really meeting what we need here. And it's like, really, dude?
Verbatim. So John Mark Bentley, I'll never forget this, man. He calls me up. He's like, listen, and like it was radio static for 2 weeks, right? Because I was supposed to go on my official visit, sign my scholarship offer, and boom, I'm off to the races.
Yeah.
It's radio static for 2 weeks. I get a phone call from John Mark Bentley, and he's like, listen, I'm just going to get right to it. He's like, college wrestling is a business. We need guys that can perform how we want them to, when we want them to. We were looking for at least third. You took sixth. So we can't pay you to wrestle here anymore, but you can still come and be on the team.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the pat on the back, ass.
Exactly.
Thanks for the pat on the back.
Hard. Yeah, no, that was a pretty hard fuck you. I'm not gonna wrestle there.
That hurts.
If you're gonna do that to me now, like what happens if I go there and I get hurt or anything can happen. Right. So
yeah,
I was like, clearly you don't have my back, so
no,
I'm gonna have my own back.
Yeah, totally.
So honestly, that was the origin story. That you said I was kind of like the bad guy. Like
it's like and there's nothing wrong with that.
That started my college villain arc. I was like, all right.
So
it's me versus the establishment.
If you can tell by like my colors, I've been an Iowa fan forever, since I was tiny. I mean, since the Brands were wrestling and they were in college yet. So I've always taken to the bad boy side and the guys that don't really give a shit about what everybody else thinks. Because quite frankly, that's kind of the mentality you need if you're going to succeed. Look at a lot of business guys. They don't give a shit about what you think. They don't care about what you have going on. They're in for them. They're trying to accomplish something. And everybody thinks that it's like against them. It's not against them. You're trying to accomplish something. You have a goal and you're trying to get something done. And not everybody's on the same wavelength. And sometimes you just got to kick the rest of the assholes to the side and tell them, this is what I'm doing. And hey, if you don't want to be along for the ride, great. So Nick, you've mentioned college. Mm-hmm. So where did you go to college? Did you mention that?
So I wrestled at this small school in Michigan called Olivet College.
Oh, I know Olivet.
Very much, not many people do. And also, don't get it confused with Olivet Nazarene because that's in Chicago, and a lot of people think it's that one.
Nope. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it was a total culture shock for me. I mean, it was probably one of the best things in my life that ever happened to me, going to that school and wrestling for that program.
Yep.
Again, having come off a fresh regional qualification, thought I was just the hottest thing around.
It's pretty sweet.
And then I learned, and I was very humbled very quickly when I walked in that first day of the room, when there's multiple time, qualifiers, All-Americans, conference champs, multiple time state champs in a Division III room. And I think I got pinned in my wrestle off, and I was the only kid on the team who got pinned during the wrestle off. So it was a very humbling experience. But I learned a lot. My coach Brandon Brissett, I learned a lot from him, and he's one of my role models in life. Some of the friends I made was great. And, I ended up being a team captain. I wrestled all 4 years. I was a team captain. I was a starter my senior year. One of my best friends was the starter ahead of me, and he was a 2-time qualifier. So,
nice.
We were constantly, and then he would live with me in the summer and we would train. So, I got a lot out of it, and I was very much a team first type of wrestler, though. I didn't necessarily care how I did. I always wanted what was best for the team, and I would do what was best for the team. So I would do like extra workouts with guys who, needed it and all that, but I never focused on myself, where like I would say on the opposite side of Logan, where he was like, all right, I'm going to be the best there is. I just wanted to be on the team and be a part of something. And so, I got a different experience out of it. I loved my 4 years there. It was one of the best times of my life, but, I'll just say it was a great time. And that's where, I learned a lot, and then, that would propel me to try to do the senior level stuff.
So you guys are kind of, like you said, you guys are kind of opposites, where there's no I in team. And then you, Logan, there's no I in team, but there's a me in team, bitch. So that's kind of, that's an interesting dynamic to have as kind of like a duo as far as what you guys are doing currently. So your senior level, you just started bringing up, Nick, where did that take you? How did that go?
My
Are you selling that house?
first year senior level. Am I selling it? Oh, not. I'm renting this one to someone else, but it's a rental listing. It's a small one. My senior season my senior level actually started at Masters first, because I didn't think I was ready. So I went and did the Masters A division, and I had a good time. It gave me a good idea, and I was training really hard for it.
Interesting.
And I think I took second or something. I blew the finals by making a really dumb mistake. I was up like 2-0, and then went for a headlock, and then gave up some stupid move, and that cost me winning a finals match for the Masters. But oh well.
Yeah.
So then from there, after that year after, maybe I'll let Logan jump into this story, but where I met him, we were training with this coach who was taking a small team to senior nationals. So I went senior division that year, and then that's when Logan and I started training.
Nice.
At the very beginning, and then from there he continued on wrestling, and I pulled back from the sport, or competing, I should say, stopped competing.
So this is where Ultron came together. This is where.
Yeah, no, this was wild. So we were both, like, we didn't know each other. Like, I had no idea who Nick was, but we were both in the room training with freestyle guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was Greco and he was Greco, but we were wrestling with freestyle wrestlers that were like close to our weight and like trying to do hybrid practices.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of came out, like, Nick was like, no, like, I compete in Greco. And I was like, yo.
Me
First
too.
of all, this is like, I've got goals, and like, this is not meeting my expectations. Like, and like, this was when I relocated back to Virginia. So I was coming off the Cornell experience to this like ragtag team of guys that were trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, what if we just like, I had a whole training facility through one of my other sponsors, Top of the Podium.
Okay.
So I was like, look, I got the keys of the castle. Like, why don't we just do our own practices here?
Yeah.
And so, we started, training together, and Nick would bring his dad into the room, who, was very accomplished, and he took a liking to me as well. So that was a big like expedite in my understanding of like the rules of Greco. And, I started developing a style. But like there was just one day, like I had never met somebody that was like that passionate about Greco since I had like started on that path.
Yeah.
And it was almost like I was asking him out. I was like, yo, Nick, like hear me out. You know, you have an LLC, I have an LLC, like we both care about Greco. Like, what if we started a business together?
Nice. Nice.
And so we started like brainstorming like name ideas. And as soon as I said Greco United, it just like stuck. Like, okay, no, that is literally like, because we were like opposites in how we came up, but we saw, you know, that unity between us.
Yeah.
Like that's really where like Greco United came from.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be able to portray that, you know, through our actions. And it worked because I was on the field, like, you know, boots on the ground, actively competing and rising as an athlete.
Yeah.
And, you know, Nick had all the really relevant experiences from traveling and from having his dad and all those different things that, you know, we could kind of operate to our strengths, right?
Yeah.
I'm the me and team, right? So
Yep.
I'm on the front lines and like making things happen.
Yep.
He's more behind the scenes and kind of like the PR guy if I mess up or, you know, whatever needed to be done, like Nick's stepping up and doing it. So I'm able to like take my strategic brain when it comes to like social media strategy or just like brainstorming ideas for events that we hosted or like fundraising, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he's able to take that idea and kind of bring it to life. So
it looks like he's bringing another idea to life in his car here. I don't know what's he's got. This is Nick. This is fucking entertaining, dude. Like seriously. And I want you to keep living, keep doing it. I don't want you to stop. This so like I said,
let me turn off my video so you don't have to watch me work.
I was enjoying some of the view you were giving us, dude. Come on, man. Like, all right.
Beautiful scene.
Yeah, right. It's a nice scenery. It's nice seeing Nick do a little work. I'm all right with that. I mean, hey, I'm sitting here doing work too.
I got to get these soft hands tough like you guys where soft streets of Alexandria.
I'll be honest with you.
Somebody's got to work.
This is probably one of the most open, more fun conversations I've had with a couple guys. This is awesome. So you guys met at this point. Greco United starts. So where do you guys start with that? Like, what did you guys start out doing? Was it just maybe starting an Instagram page, putting some videos out on there, Facebook? How did you guys kind of wrangle your thoughts together to kind of get this going?
So I had a club team for maybe like a year and a half.
Okay.
Called Unraveling Academy, and I just got asked to be the head coach. So I took it on, and so I was like, I really want to do a Greco thing.
Yep.
So it was called KWA Greco or Night Wrestling Academy Greco.
Okay.
And it, you know, I was just doing run of the mill technique stuff. And so when we were talking about it, I was like, instead of, you know, trying to redo everything, why don't we just rebrand this page? Because it had some involvement. Like, we had big guys like D'Angelo Hancock, Joe Rao.
Yep.
You know, Call Bay. They were all following the page, but it was just like it's normal stuff. It wasn't like entertaining or informative.
Right.
It's just technique.
Yep. That was in Logan's videos. I told him you guys should keep doing those. Keep putting technique out there. Cause I mean, and I know like Rockfin is one thing, but you can load that stuff up out on Instagram now. I mean, you don't even have to pay to have this stuff. Like YouTube's free. I liked watching the stuff that you guys had out. And I was kind of curious as to like, you know, why did that stop? And again, you're busy. I know the schedules are hectic, and trust me, like my nights are literally, that's all I have to do things. But so you started from a page that you already had, but where did you guys kind of, what was the goal? You said just informative. It was just kind of putting stuff out there. You had followers on the one page, but then what was the Greco United goal?
So I'll take that piece because that's really where I inserted my strengths.
Okay.
I had already kind of amassed a decent following. Like, you know, people got invested in my journey. So my personal page had a decent following already.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been into like, you know, Instagram algorithms and being able to grow organically and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I was kind of the social media strategist, and we would work together on the type of content that we wanted to make. So we started doing different series. Like, we had a Bridge the Gap campaign where we'd show technique that was relevant in Greco to other disciplines of combat. Yep. Right. We did a little series called Underneath the Filth, which was like a knockoff of pro wrestling Behind the Dirt. Yeah. Yep. So we just started doing things that were, you know, kind of to gain popularity. But also, you know, our mission statement of, you know, Greco matters and we want to show you why.
Yep.
So I was very involved in the beginning of growing that page organically and kind of being the social media strategist.
Mhm.
And then people just kind of thought it was cool, right? We had a cool logo with the torch and everything.
Yeah.
And our biggest turning point was the Capital Cup. We put together an event during the COVID year.
Yep.
That nobody else was able to do. Like, because I was sitting there watching, I had just joined Rockfin, and I was watching all these cards pop up, and I was like, there's none for Greco. And I was just like,
Yep.
I was fuming. I was like, why is there nothing for Greco? So it really started off with an Instagram story. I took 8 guys in my weight class that, were probably going to be in the Olympic trials. And I was like, who wants to see this bracket happen?
Yep.
And people went nuts. They're like, yo, that's such a good idea, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So then I reached out to these guys, and the idea, first we were going to call it Underdog, right?
Yeah.
It was like the Underdog tournament and give prize money to the winner. And then it just developed into this whole thing, right? It turned into the 8-man bracket in my weight class. But because we're Greco United, we had to incorporate other styles. So we had a full undercard of women's freestyle. We had men's freestyle.
Wow.
And our co-main event was 3 women's Greco matches, right? So we put this whole thing together, and then that's when our page blew up. Like, because we were able to pay the athletes on time. We paid the first through third. We had a bonus for the women's Greco. And then our custom awards, we had the engraved daggers that said, United we Greco, divided we sprawl. And that went to the...
I read that. That was catchy. That was good.
Yeah, so the tagline, again, that's social media strategy and stuff, right? So that really catapulted our popularity in terms of, like, people getting eyes on Greco. But that's when people started reaching out to us. They're like, hey, where can I train Greco? I live in Wisconsin. Or where can I train Greco? I live in Pennsylvania. So people started to recognize us as, like, the main Greco entity.
Nice.
And so that in itself evolved our business. But okay, people are coming to us with their needs. We need to be able to accommodate them. So that's when our Rockfin page really started to develop in terms of, like, hey, we're going to put out a list of clubs that train women's Greco all over the country. Right? We're going to start highlighting different athletes and getting their stories, like Andy Dill. We just started doing things that people wanted and needed. And so that is really what catapulted our page. And now, we're almost at 5,000 followers. I got to go to Final X and actually do, like, media coverage there. One thing definitely led to the next, but it was all need-based and from the community, from the Greco community that existed, and for the ones that were part of the Greco community but didn't know it yet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, and I think it's important, like you were saying, I mean, you're putting something out there that there are people that are interested in it. They just don't know where to go. They don't know who it is, where it's at. And once you put it in front of their face, I mean, word of mouth and social media right now is the biggest growth of anything. I was just listening to Joe Rogan the other day with him talking about just how things have changed for advertisement and ads and things like that. Like, you don't need to be on Netflix anymore. You don't need to be on a movie channel anymore to get recognized. Things are so accessible to people now that just kind of, like you said, strategy, finding a way to get your name and your brand out there is pretty simple if you can find that path. And it's really about a niche, and really making yourself unique. And you guys obviously are unique. I mean, you both competed, you both had a desire for one thing, and it's Greco to get it recognized. I think it's important that we all kind of get together as a sport, because I think the biggest problem that we have in this sport is that we consider each one separate. They are separate. They're different styles. I get it, but it's still wrestling. And there's so much division, like it's politics, that it's one of those things where people just need to sit down and just talk to each other and understand that, hey, you're not going to wrestle Greco. Awesome. But, like, Liam's never going to compete in Greco again, but he will train in it. Hands down.
Right.
There's no way he's going to escape it. He's gained way too much of an advantage over certain kids having that upper body strength and the upper body know-how and the technique that I told Lucas, I was like, I'll never take him anywhere else. He'll always go to Lucas. Unless there's someone that can house him like he can and take him like, he's always going to go to Lucas. Cause I just told Lucas, and he's pretty picky in who he takes out there, but he knows that I understand what he's trying to accomplish as well. He's got kids that are on the world stage that are winning medals, that are winning championships. I was like, I don't want to screw that up. So Liam's going to come and train. And if there's something I need to do beforehand to get him ready, I will do that because I want him training with you. And then he gets lambasted by Ben Askren because Ben says he's full of crap because it's Greco and all this other stuff. It's like this fucking battle for no reason. We're all in wrestling. We should just be hanging out, figuring out how we can help each other grow. So it's everywhere, because when you go overseas, guess what? They're not wrestling, folk style. We need to kind of get over the shit. You know, we need to get over the shit a little bit. It's time to be like, we're not the greatest in the world. We need to compromise and understand what other countries are doing. I mean, looking at how those kids, and you were over there, Liam explained it to me a little bit after being in Estonia. Those kids are given options to do what they want to, but wrestling's so prevalent over there that they gravitate towards Greco because it's the more prevalent sport over there. So if we want to be prevalent and I guess relevant in anything, because as you notice now, I mean, for our freestyle team, those guys are getting older. You know, where is that going to start going? Yeah. Once they start seeing how we are and how we wrestle, they're going to start training that way too. It's all going to catch up. Whereas in the meantime, we could have been working together to dominate in everything, and we're not, you know? So
we're not
with you guys in the things that you've been doing, the Rockfin channel, like I said, I love the content that's on there with the videos that you guys had for technique. And then you guys had the Capital Cup. I saw a couple of videos on that. Where do you guys see the future for you guys? What do you think the future holds? And some of the things that maybe have recently come up for you guys. I mean, what do you think the future holds for you guys? Where you at, Nick? You taking another dog to the woods or what?
Yeah, I will say, oh my God. Yeah, no, I'm just dropping everything.
That's cool.
Just like my football career, I was dropping everything. I think for us, really, where we're planning is I don't know if we haven't touched base on it, but Logan recently went to Final X and did media, and we did full coverage of just Greco. And it was fantastic just seeing the interviews and how happy they were to have attention on them.
Yeah.
And it's not like in a selfish way, like me, but in a way like, wow, we're athletes, we're professional athletes who deserve, recognition as well. Just like our, brothers and sisters in freestyle who deserve the recognition. Right. We're just asking for the same thing. And Logan just knocked it out of the park. That's part of it. We've also, which we want to discuss, is we're actually now a fully formed government recognized 501c3. So we're a nonprofit that our goal is to be giving to Greco athletes who are looking to train or compete full time and help them take away that financial burden that a lot of athletes face.
That's awesome. That, honestly, I don't know. I mean, other than starting an RTC, I don't know how else you could, kind of help that other than what you guys are doing. Like you said, you guys are trying to put money in the bank for these guys to be able to have whatever they're not getting stipend for, because I know that it's pretty rough for some of the guys that aren't like, getting shoe deals and stuff like JB and everything like that. So, I mean, there's levels to the shit. I get it. Like if you're taking first constantly, you make more money. You're doing it. I get it. But at some point we got to support it all. Got to support it all. One
of the things.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things about me is I have this unique ability to be places that I shouldn't be. I have this ability to figure out things that I've never touched or seen before.
Yeah.
And that works very well in business. So you mentioned JB's got shoe. So do I.
Nice.
Right. I've been able to appear in places that Greco has never really been.
Yeah.
Like for example, they did that battle at the ballpark where they had that wrestling event. It was supposed to be against Iran, but Iowa and Oklahoma State wrestled I was there training with Team USA all week, right? So I was like, with Burroughs and all of them in the room.
Yeah.
I was transporting James O'Hancock back and forth, and then I was on the floor, like warming up with Nathan Tomasello and Hancock right before his match.
Oh my God.
Right. So people are getting to see me specifically in these areas where like Greco hasn't been before.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's really what's changed the idea of what was possible for Greco.
Yep.
So one of the big pieces going forward is to really hone in on this media piece, this new wing that we've added by being at Final X.
Yep.
So not only are we going to be putting athletes on the mat and like trying to fund them, but then we're going to have people there specifically covering those athletes, covering the other Greco athletes, and becoming a full force for Greco. And that's really something that even other countries don't necessarily have yet.
Right.
Right. So we're trying to step up and really knock this out of the park in terms of, going full force for Greco because nobody else is. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Flow has already cornered the market, and they're a monopoly on all things freestyle, and people don't even like them, but they still support them because that's all they have.
That's all they have.
Right? We're in that same seat without the level of funding. So I think that we're going to be able to kind of do things the right way.
Yes.
And we want to become bigger than them.
Yeah. I totally agree. That's a great entrepreneurial goal. I think that brings more of the I in team than the me in team, because it's not simple. It's not easy this is me. This is just me by myself. And I don't have money to pay people to come on an episode. I just reach out, and it's just like, hey, you want to be on the show? Yeah. I have like 138 countries that I reach, however many downloads an episode, kind of things like that. But at the same point though, too, it's really not about being, as far as making money, it's the exposure. It's getting the exposure out. It's getting it's not even so much about the sport. It's getting the people recognizing, getting them the recognition that I know, because I can see in social media left and right that they're not getting. So I think it's huge that you guys have that in mind, to not only bring to the forefront a sport that is probably one of the more dominant styles when it comes to technique and winning and how to win, and plus just action in general. Like how many guys that are wrestling folkstyle and freestyle are waiting for the other guy because they don't want to shoot on him? He ain't doing that in Greco, dude. If you're waiting, you're dying, so that's the best part about it. And I think if people miss it, there are people who are still in it, and their kids, like young kids, are in it, they like it, but that dies out because the opportunity, like you were saying, that opportunity kind of goes away because the recognition isn't there, and everybody wants to be on top of that podium when the lights are flashing with Flow Wrestling over in the corner, but who wants to grind it out and kind of and win something that's not, I don't want to say meaningful, because I'm not trying to put anybody down here, but at the same point though, too, something that's a little loftier, something that's not often accomplished, that guys just don't accomplish. I mean, how many guys do you hear about besides Carellin and a couple of the American guys? And I'm sure I could name off 5, 6, 7 of them, but those guys were how long ago? What about the now? So Nick, with that being said, are you still there? Cause I see okay, there he is. He's back. He was just waiting for me to ask about his dog. Probably when you are out and about, like what are your goals and what are your objectives with your side of it? Because obviously Logan's competing, and have you thought about competing again? Trying that out, Nick?
Oh God, no. Oh no, absolutely not.
It wasn't rhetorical. I did want to know. I thought maybe there's like, I thought maybe I'd try this Masters tournament, but you're not going to do that, huh?
Oh no, I am so out of shape. I don't even think I could.
Right on. So what do you guys have coming up next? What's your next competition, Logan?
Really, that's to be determined. I'm trying to go back overseas and train in Finland for an extended period of time. So I'm like working that out with boxing right now.
Yeah.
But really, I think my next tournament will probably, if they do another Thor Masters at the end of this year, then that. But otherwise, it's going to be the Bill Farrell.
Okay.
We got to start focusing on like our Olympic trials qualifiers. So
yeah,
I'm just going to be training for an extended period of time until the next competition comes up.
Well, and I know that eventually I want to get Liam out to that too, that Bill Farrell tournament. I don't know what the youngest age I can register out there for that is. I don't
18.
Is it 18? Damn it. Okay. So he's got to be a little bit. Maybe we could fib something, maybe not, but Nick, Nick, let's talk a little bit about what you do on the side here. What do you do for an occupation?
Me, I'm in real estate, so I'm helping people buy, sell, or invest in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia.
Okay. So with that being said, this is interesting that you do that, because this is kind of something that we thought about up here with what you guys do. I mean, Nick, you could hook up with an apartment and in real estate and buy an apartment where you could house all these athletes, right?
Yeah. Oh, and so that's something we've actually talked about is, getting a small commercial space, having a mat where Logan can train, 24/7. Yeah. And then bringing in people. And, if we buy a place in Leesburg, goes for like 150, 200,000, a 2-bedroom condo. Perfect. Like that's all you need. Yeah. They can eat, sleep, train, and then, they can leave because we're like 10 minutes, 15 minutes from a major international airport.
Right.
So, that's a goal of ours. And to kind of touch on what I do for Greco United, like Logan's the face, he does brand and appearances and all that stuff. I'm doing operations management. I'm reaching out to guys and seeing like what we can do, setting up interviews, running the page, and making sure that, we're getting things on track to make sure that, we're staying relevant and staying connected to the wrestling community, which, as our main goal is to develop a culture in the United States of Greco.
Yeah.
Not trying to take over freestyle, folk style, that's not the goal. That's where the united part of our mission statement comes in. Greco United, we want to be, all together, a forefront to, grow and support athletes in all divisions. And that's where we're going to be getting to, is, helping freestyle and women's freestyle and, help them grow wherever they need to, while also serving, our Greco guys.
So that's an interesting dynamic, and it sounds like, like you said, Logan's more the face because, well, his camera's on and yours is off, so it explains that he is more the face.
Literally.
Face for radio. That's what I was telling you.
That's right. And it's the same for me. I'm no hot piece of meat, that's for sure. I'm just some balding guy that lives in Wisconsin. So with that being said,
can't relate.
With that being said, I think what you guys are doing is great. That's why I wanted to have you guys on. It's unique to have, because I'm around Lucas Stelt. He's just 3 hours away from me. So I actually do a segment with him called Parterre. And I could let that guy talk for an hour and a half because he will blow up the microphone with any opinion he's got, ideas on rules that he has as far as refereeing, everything. So I find it, every time I see someone that's so Greco specific, I find it extremely interesting. And I feel like they need to be out there because I just don't think there's a lot of it. I don't know, besides you guys and Lucas, I know 5 Point Move, though, with Dennis Hall and those guys, they've been doing their thing for quite a while. So I know those guys have been around. I don't know of anybody else. I don't know of any other Greco based and focused type groups that are out there right now. So that's where I get intrigued, and I actually kind of like, I want to partner with these guys a little bit on something and see how, because I'm all over the place with Liam. We're everywhere. So with that being said, Nick, you're a busy dude. I don't want to keep you on here for too long. Logan, I know you got stuff going on. So I do want to end this, but I do want to talk to you guys before we completely end this here, because I actually have some thoughts of mine that I'd like to bring up to you guys. But with that being said, it's been Brad, Logan, Nick of Greco United. I'm of the Vision Quest podcast. This is the end of the show, folks. I hope you join us again. Peace. All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.